Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. We're your hosts, Heidi
and Farin. Welcome to episode 13 of Theme Weavers. Today's episode is our second interview style episode as I talk with Heidi about her go-to back pocket theme. In case this is the first episode you're listening to, check out episode 2 of Theme Weavers podcast for details and background on the structure of how and why to weave themes through your yoga classes. But to start, Heidi, remind us quickly, what is a back pocket theme?
Absolutely. So a back pocket theme is a theme you can quickly use for any yoga class of any style, any time of day, any season, with any posture or sequence in mind. It just works. A back pocket theme is one you're super comfortable with and you don't need any preparation to use it, as if you were just to grab it out of your back pocket and deliver it without any work ahead of time. It doesn't even have to be tied to a Yoga Sutra. You don't need to read from anything when you're delivering your theme. And most of the time, you'll have personal stories or examples you can give to help your students connect to the theme. So we like to share these with you, and our hope is to be able to interview other yoga teachers on their back pocket themes over time also. So if you are a yoga teacher listening and you want the opportunity to be a guest on the podcast, just reach out to us, send us an email or reach out on social media, and we can talk about it because we'd love to interview you on your back pocket theme to share with yoga teachers as well.
Yes, gotta love those back pocket themes. And then hopefully if you're a yoga teacher, maybe a newer yoga teacher, you will develop these and you'll see them because you'll be like, oh yeah, I don't have a theme for today, but I'm just gonna use this one that I've used before. And then you refine it at each class and it becomes your back pocket theme that you can just whip out and teach at any time.
Yeah, and they don't have to be complicated, right?
Not at all.
It could just be something that you just are constantly inspired by and connected to, so you can just share on it super easy. And start simple. It doesn't need to be fancy.
Yeah. Great advice. So, Heidi, what is your back pocket theme? Give me your Dharma talk as if I'm your student and you're going to teach a class to me.
Oh my gosh, I love that idea. So, okay, stay with me for a second because I'm going to show you how I get to the teaching as if we were in a yoga room for the first time. So you might know some of the things I'm going to talk about, but I want to be able to deliver this. Usually there's somebody in my class that's never been there before. So if you know some of this stuff, it's a nice refresher. Okay, here we go. Welcome to class. In class today, I would like us to begin to think about our yoga practice as more than just the physical. I bet if you think back to the first time you stepped onto your yoga mat, whether it's today for the first time or 40 years ago or more, that there was an element of physical benefit that brought you here. And just like you, I came to my mat for the physical. I came to it to reduce pain, to increase flexibility, and maybe to start to see if I could find that chill feeling I had heard yoga brings about for people. That latter, that elusive chill feeling, is what I want to talk about for a moment before we begin moving our bodies. So I remember being in 9th grade, the first time I stood on a yoga mat, and I was crazy stressed, which is just so bizarre to think about because what kind of stress do you have when you're in 9th grade? But little did I know that the stress I felt as a 15-year-old was nothing compared to the stress of growing up. But to me, the world was messy and it was chaotic and it was upsetting. And if moving my body in a room with a lot of sweaty people could help me feel a little bit more chill, I was totally in. So in the 25 years since I first rolled out my mat, I have learned that in yoga, we call that chill feeling I describe samadhi. Samadhi is that moment where we experience internal stillness despite all that is going on in and around us. It's that moment, maybe you have had it, where everything feels just right and you experience the sense of oneness. For me, I find samadhi often in nature or when I'm immersed in something that just feels bigger than me. All right, so if yoga is supposed to bring about this stillness, this oneness of samadhi, how on earth do we get here? It's all about the practice, using different tools to help us go within to find stillness. Yes, our bodies are moving, but the yoga toolbox goes so much deeper than the poses. So in class today, I want us to introduce an idea that comes from the Yoga Sutras, an ancient book that helps teach the things we do in yoga to help us reach the state of samadhi. Sutra 1.12 is all about the balance between doing and allowing. And in Sanskrit, the words to describe this are Abhyasa and Vairagya. The sutra says that in order to achieve a state of yoga, one must develop both practice and detachment. It tells us to focus on putting in intentional and purposeful effort, which is abhyasa, while at the same time releasing any attachment to the result of that effort, which is vairagya. If we really focus our minds on something without getting caught up in the outcome of our efforts, we can still the mind and come into a state of balance. It sounds so simple, right?
Yep.
But it's actually really hard. As humans, we are goal-oriented and thrive in competition with ourselves and with others. We wonder, what is the real point of doing what we do? Asking ourselves if without an external goal, is there even a real reason to do it? Okay, so stay with me here. Think about all of the dreams and goals you set for yourself. It isn't typically about the effort that you put in, but the end result. Imagine how much easier it would be if the outcome wasn't the goal, but the goal was directing your energy and passion to the actions that you're taking. The stress of failure would just disappear. The chaos of having to be good enough, to be strong enough, to be flexible enough, successful enough, all the enoughs would melt away because you would just be. So our yoga mat is a place where we can practice that, a place where we can cultivate focused effort while letting go of the need to have results. Can you practice without comparing yourself to me or to what you think you should be able to do? Can you drop the chatter in your mind telling you that you're not doing it right or you won't reach your goals if only you can do a better warrior too? Can you direct your effort on connecting your breath to your movement for the next hour without needing that movement to look or feel a certain way? Abhyasa and Vairagya create a sense of presence. It's not about what you do, but how you do it. It's not about what your poses look like, Vairagya, but the effort you put into the experience of the poses, Abhyasa. By practicing these two ideas, we can still the mind and the obstacles to our practice. The more rigor we bring, the more ease we have because the results are no longer the point of the practice. We use this as a tool to still the ever-wavering human mind, to try to reach a state of samadhi and find inner peace. Set your effort with purpose, then surrender to the results.
Oof.
Boom.
Boom. Right out the back pocket. I love it. Okay, so now I'm excited for class. And that Dharma talk had all of the key points in it. So you introduced the idea of Abhyasa and Vairagya. You told us some problems it will solve, like letting go of comparison or the pressure to achieve. And then you told us challenges that arise while practicing, which are feeling motivation when you don't have an end goal to strive for. That's a struggle for me, is to stay motivated when I don't have that goal. Like I can't let go of the outcome. So this is a really hard practice for me.
For sure. You're super goal oriented. You're like, all right, what's the next thing I'm going to do? I got to plan it. I got to do it. And then once I have the date and that it's going to happen, it's going to happen because I am Farin.
Yeah. And it, like, I do still enjoy the experience of reaching the goal, but it's like, if I never reach the goal, then I would feel like I'm missing something. I lacked something. So this is such a struggle for me. So it's interesting that this is your back pocket theme. And I'm over here like, I hate this.
We've talked about this. You're always like, I hate when I have to teach a class or when I choose to teach a class in Abhyasa and Vairagya because I just like don't buy it. I just don't. I'm like, that's so funny, Farin, because it's my back pocket sequence. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I put so much pressure on myself to achieve, right? Like I am only good at yoga when I can do X, Y, Z. Like that's BS. Like that's not even truth at all. And so much of the time, that's what we think because that's what our society tells us. Like, unless you look like that Instagram person, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be complete. But it's not about that at all.
Yeah.
And so this helps, I think, people get away from that.
Yeah. In your Dharma talk, you told us the results of practicing Abhyasa and Vairagya, which can be a sense of presence and stilling our mind, and the obstacles to our practice that the mind can create.
It's funny. It kind of all goes back to our very first podcast, right? What is yoga? Yoga is now. And how do we be now? By stilling the fluctuations of our mind.
Yep.
And this is like a tool to help us still the fluctuations of our mind.
Yeah. I love how they all work together. So then take me through your class. What is the practice going to look like? What is your thematic through-line phrase? What postures are we doing?
Yeah, cool. My thematic through line, the thing that I'd say over and over in all of these different postures throughout the class is to set your effort with purpose, then surrender to the results, right? Put in the effort. Whatever the result is irrelevant. Can you feel this heel pressing into the ground? Can you feel blah, blah, blah? Like I would remind them that it's about the sensations that they feel rather than what the final pose looks like. But I like to do this class a lot with, sugarcane pose or chapasana.
I
Do you know that
love
pose? It's like a
sugarcane
bound.
pose. So that's the one where you're in half moon, but then you're bound, like you're grabbing onto your foot and bending your knee, the top.
Yeah, it's like I call it like a fallen dancer's pose almost, right? Like it's like you're in dancers and then like, whoops, my reaching up hand just fell to the ground. I'm still in a dancer's, but like different.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite. I think I'm actually going to use that in my class that I'm teaching tomorrow because it's a fun one. I just love it. But anyway, I would do a peak pose of that, reminding people that it's not about the outcome of being able to find Chapasana, but about the ability to feel an opening throughout your body or to feel your foot that's on the ground, right? So I would build us up for this with things like a low lunge with cactus arms, like a high lunge with cactus arms, a lot of cactus arms to open the chest, doing these like active things like a high lunge with knee dips while being in cactus arms to start to wake up your quadricep muscles as well. We'd engage the quads in Warrior 2 by pressing into the pinky toe edge of the back foot. We do all these really fun, I think you'd love these, half moon exercises. First, we're like the lifted leg and half moon, the knee bends and straightens. So you're flexing and extending at the knee. And then the bottom leg bends and straightens. And then can you do both at the same time? So you're in balance, activating the quads while opening the chest in the half moon.
This sounds like a power yoga class.
Right? I think you'd like it. But I can like dull it down also, right? Like it doesn't have to be super hard. You can make it hard or easy. It depends on what you want. I mean, maybe not easy. This isn't an easy class, but then I like to use the wall if we have it available to do dancers at the wall, just to take the balance out, but work on being able to hold the foot and kick your foot into your hand to activate the quads while you're stretching them. Then we do just dancers pose, like in the middle of the room on your mat, to be able to focus on the balance aspect. And then when I go into the peak pose, I like to have them hold a block in their hand, the upper hand for dancer's pose. So they like go into dancers holding a block and then slowly flex at the hips to lower the block to the ground. So you're still in dancers. So you're coming to sugarcane from dancer's pose, but reminding them to set the rigor on the effort, right? Can I be in this experience while releasing the need for the results, releasing the need to ever actually get into sugarcane or Chapasana, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's so good. I think I want to use this today. I actually teach a little bit later and I love that pose. So I love that transition getting into it. And we have tons of blocks at our studios. So it's happening.
It's a fun way. Especially, I think most classes I get into it from like you're in half moon and then you flex into the knee, bending it and try and reach back and aimlessly find your foot somehow in space. But this feels like you're being really intentional about the shape that you want your body to be in and whether or not you can not fall, but slowly and methodically get your hand to the ground into the half moon shape is irrelevant because you're already in the shape from dancers, essentially. You can do it on the ground too. What's that pose when you're like in a knee down half moon? It's like a supported side plank kind of, and then you grab the top foot.
Yeah.
So it's like the same pose, but the knee is on the ground. So that can be a variation. Also, you can use a strap around the foot rather than your hand, right? You're releasing the need to be able to get into that final pose by yourself and just putting the effort into what tools can I use to be able to experience the final shape as best as possible.
Yeah. And I think the emphasis is on like opening your chest since you're doing all of your layering postures up to that. So it's like, can you focus more on that versus like maybe binding with the back foot or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Release the outcome. I know this is your back pocket theme, but I want to remind people that you're supposed to be able to use these back pocket themes for any style of class. So what if we weren't doing something like this hard vinyasa or a power yoga type style? Like what other pose could you use in just like a really gentle or like yin that still speaks to that theme?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, you can use this theme for Shavasana. The amount of students that tell me that that is the hardest posture of the entire yoga class for them because they're not moving their bodies and they're not able to distract their minds by being in their bodies and they're having to just be in their mind. Can you be in Shavasana while releasing the results of the need to be able to have your mind be completely still? Can you just be here? right? If your mind gets busy, that's okay. That's the outcome. We don't need to focus on the outcome. Can you put in the effort of breathing and laying here? And what happens with your mind happens with your minds, but can you put in the effort to try?
That's so good. So like, I mean, even just a meditation, just like a seated meditation class, not even any type of asana, you can still use the theme of Abhyasa and Vairagya.
Yeah, and for like a more yin styled one, any like Paschimottanasana, like anything that's like a forward fold, I think people think that they need to look like a crazy flexible human that can get their chest all the way to their thighs and their nose to the knees while keeping an anterior tilt in their pelvis and not flexing too crazy amount through their spine. Like maybe your hands in a seated forward fold, let's say, can only reach to your knees and your chest is still super lifted and your chin is just drawing to your chest. Like, can you put in the effort of feeling the lengthening and stretching through your body while releasing the need for it to ever even look remotely like the posture that we're calling?
Yeah. For like your nose to touch your knees.
Yeah, I mean, so many people hurt themselves, overstretch, do something crazy to be able to try and contort their bodies, and then hurt themselves in yoga and don't want to come back because they're so results focused on what the posture is supposed to look like that they hurt themselves trying to get there. But can you try and let go of that and just be in the experience of feeling the sensations of your body, putting your effort into that, releasing the need for the posture to look anyway?
Yeah. I love that. Okay, I'm liking this theme more and I might actually use it more often, but it's still such a struggle for me. I know.
It's okay because having a struggle is part of the practice, right? It's not meant to be every theme just feels totally perfect to you and that you buy it 100%. That's part of it, right? Like you're surrendering to the results of the fact that this doesn't totally connect with you, but you can be in the practice of exploring it.
Yeah. I love that.
I can Abhyasa and Vairagya, your theme aversion to Abhyasa and Vairagya. Look at that.
There you go. Boom. All right. So if I'm going to teach this class, can you give me an ending, a summary, like getting up from Shavasana? What do you say to close?
Of course. So as we're resting here on our sides in the fetal position, let's think about how we can take and reconnect with this theme of Abhyasa and Vairagya with us off of the mat. The goal of yoga is to find stillness, even when things around you are chaotic and changing, to find samadhi. By putting in the effort and releasing the results of that effort, we have an easier time surrendering off of our mats when life takes us out of balance, or when we're feeling the pressure to be in competition with ourselves or those around us. Practice Abhyasa and Vairagya, the balance of effort and surrender, as you go about your day.
Ah, it's so good. I love it.
Thank you.
Did you create the inspo sheet for this class?
Duh, obviously.
Okay. So we'll put that up on our website, themeweaversyoga.com/episode 13. And the link is also found in our show notes. So you can use Heidi's back pocket theme of Abhyasa and Vairagya to bring it alive in your own voice and your own practice and teaching, just like I am going to.
Let me know how it goes, please. Whether all of you or Farin, even, who usually hates this theme, let me know. Do you like it now? How's it feel? Is it more approachable? Yeah, so then reach out to us. Me, Farin, us as Theme Weavers on Facebook, Instagram, email, all the things. Let us know how it lands. Is my back pocket going to become your back pocket? We're here to support you, fellow yoga teachers, in your class preparation and delivery, so let us know how we can be the most support. So tune in next week for another episode of Theme Weavers, and until next time,
we weave you in peace.
woo!